This video is intended to show how I was able to increase the reverse speed on my Craftsman model DGS6500. I've had this unit for about 8 years or so, and from day one the biggest problem I've had with it, or nuisance if you will, is that when you press the pedal for reverse, regardless of how far you press it down, the reverse speed was just horribly slow, or in my opinion it was horribly slow. Sometimes, depending upon the grade, it would do okay, but otherwise it was just not acceptable. So I had read up and looked and researched a lot, and had seen different methods of doing this, but I decided to tear into mine and see what I could do. And it turns out it was a whole lot easier than I expected, and had I known this I would have done it 7 or 8 years ago. But anyway, I got it done, and unfortunately I wasn't sure if it was going to work or not, so you're going to see the end result, but I'll explain to you exactly what I did. Now, to save time, I've already taken the battery out. I'm assuming that's a fairly straightforward process for most people. And I've loosened the screws on the battery box so that I can get it out easily. So then you just lift the battery box out and set it aside. At first I thought I was going to have to do this from underneath the lawnmower, so I took out the mower deck and everything and jacked it up, only to realize that I could get at it much easier from the top. So what I did, after looking at it, I could see that the pedal, when you depressed the reverse, the pedal hit against the sheet metal frame on the lawnmower. And again, I've loosened this bracket right here is for the cruise control, which I rarely use, but I've loosened the one. There's one, I think it's a 12 millimeter, a 13 millimeter bolt that holds it in place, so I had it loose, and I'm just going to set it over to the side. And I did this so that I could get to the sheet metal portion. Now if you look real carefully, you see the gold toothed thing there, and that's what the cruise control hooks on. But just underneath that, you can see, I'm going to point to this, you can see where the sheet metal right here, this is what the back side of this bracket, which is the reverse pedal, when you pressed it, it would come back and hit against that. Now originally I was going to try to just cut some of that material out, but I thought, well, if this doesn't work, I want to be able to at least go back to where I started. So I was able to go over to this side, and if you look carefully down in here, you can see there's a cut right down here. I'm not sure you can see that, but it'll be pretty obvious once you open yours up. And what I used was just a very inexpensive holder for a hacksaw blade that I was able to lengthen, and just pushed straight down in here. I was able to get around behind it and push down in here and just make a slot, cutting up and down toward the rear of the unit. And I made that slot about, it's just under 1/2 an inch long, 3/8 to 1/2 of an inch. After I did that, I couldn't get at it with a pair of pliers or anything, so I took a steel rod that I had, and a hammer of course, and I just stuck the steel rod right down here where my finger is on the sheet metal, and I just took my hammer and hit it until I was able to bend it down to about a 30-degree angle, and I'm not able to show that, I don't think. But you can see where that piece of metal there is bent in a downward direction. And what that did was allow the stop, which is here, when you depress the reverse pedal, it allowed it to go back further. And the result of that is that it gives you more movement and thrust on that lever in the reverse direction, which I believe allows more fluid to go through the transmission and consequently increase the speed. So I did that and put it all back together and did a test run, and I was amazed at the result. I now have a reverse speed that is almost equivalent to my fastest forward speed. Now, a couple of things happened. When I did that, I realized that when I pressed this pedal now, the movement was such that it was going to go down below the footrest here. So I removed that plastic piece, and inside it, you can see the groove and everything, the slot inside it. I cut a thin piece of hardwood, about 1 5/8 inches long, about 3/4 of an inch wide, and just over 1/8 of an inch thick. I cut it just so that it would slide up into the cavity in this molded block here, and increase the height of it by about 3/4 of an inch. Now, when I did that, of course, it no longer catches on the detent under here, which is supposed to hold it on. So I just took a zip tie and ran it through the hole here and around the metal part and tied it off, and it holds it securely in place. I'm not even sure that would have been required, but I did it anyway. The next thing is that because I had more because I had increased the height of this, now when I pulled the pedal back, it was going to hit in the original slot on the foot pad here. So again, I took my hacksaw blade that I used inside, and I cut here. I cut straight back on both sides. I cut the rubber portion off, and then I was able to get under here with a pair of pliers and just bend that down out of the way. So now that I did that, I have, when I push back on it, I can get that to go back to where it hits my stop, but I still have enough sticking up that I can keep my foot on it. Now, once again, another thing that I didn't expect was, now that I have more movement in that lever, I had another interference point, and that was right here on the forward reverse lever. When it goes back now, it goes back far enough to where it wanted to hit underneath the foot pad or footrest. So I just took a file, and I could have gotten at it with a grinder, I think, but I just used a file and filed out a notch here that gives me enough movement in the when I press on the reverse pedal to where it's hitting here, but it's already bottomed out on the inside against the stop that I bent down. So having done all that, I put it back together, and it works great. I mean, I'm tickled to death. I've only mowed one time with it since I've done that, but the result far exceeded my expectation, and I know it's an aggravating situation with a lot of folks, so hopefully this will help anybody that's having that problem. Will be able to correct it and be much more satisfied with the reverse speed on your lawnmower. Hope this helps. Thanks very much.